a responsibility that does not exist in common law. So I found that really interesting because I don't know of, I'm not aware of any country in the world that has common law that requires people to return lost objects. Whereas in Torah law, in Judaism, it's very specific about our obligation to return lost objects, which is what we're going to look at this evening. So I thought that was quite interesting. So only Torah law requires the finder to initiate the process of retrieving the article. So some key questions are how does a finder determine whether he may keep an item he found or that he must return it? What are the underlying principles behind the rules? Does it make a difference what you find? And does it make a difference where you find it? And sort of a bit of a caveat or a health warning or a caution that this session is not intended as a source of practical halacha or legal rulings. So if you have a particular situation yourself, then it's always best to consult your local rabbi. So okay, let's begin. So common scenarios and establishing the parameters of Hashava Aveda, returning lost objects. So we'll now explore the basic principles of Hashava Aveda that will determine, one, if the finder is obligated to advertise a found object so that the loser can locate the finder and reclaim his lost object, or if the finder is able to keep the object. The Torah obligates us to return a lost object to its owner and actually prohibits ignoring it. And we have two mitzvahs in relation to this. One is to return lost objects, and the second is not to avoid returning lost objects. So in Devarim, it says, if you see your brother's ox or sheep going astray, you must not ignore them, you must return them to your brother. If your brother is not near you, or if you do not know who the owner is, you must bring the animal home and keep it until your brother identifies it, whereupon you must return it to him. You must do the same to a donkey, an article of clothing, or anything else that your brother loses and you find. You shall not ignore it. So that's pretty clear that we do have some sort of obligation of returning lost objects and not ignoring in the Torah. So then it says, it's now written, thus there is a concrete obligation, a Torah mitzvah, to return lost objects to their owner. But does it apply to everything that we find? So the Mishnah in Bava Metzia provides a short list of things that you can keep. So it says these are found objects that belong to the finder: scattered fruit, scattered money, sheaves of wheat in a public domain. So those are some of the things you might be able to keep. But the question is why can I keep these items if I find them? Why those particularly would you be able to keep those? So Rashi makes the following comment, which might help us understand maybe why. So he says, scattered money can be kept by the finder. Why? Since the money does not have a siman, clearly identifying features that would enable the loser to reclaim his property. Therefore, the person who lost the money will relinquish hope of ever regaining ownership, and the money becomes ownerless, hefka. This is the reason these objects may be kept. So Rashi teaches there's two criteria that enable a finder to keep a lost object. One is the lost object does not have a unique identifying characteristic, a siman, and two, the owner consciously despairs of ever finding the object, i.e. the owner gives up, and that's yeyush. Without the presence of a siman, a sign, an identifying feature, the owner loses hope of ever retrieving the object, rendering the object ownerless, hefka. Conversely, if the lost object does have a good siman, it does have unique identifying features, the owner will not give up hope of retrieving his lost object because he'll be able to describe it based on its identifying characteristics. So a bit of a caution here. If the person who picked up the money that may have fallen on the floor actually saw it fall from the owner's pocket, then of course, you've got to give it back. Even if it's a loose £10 note lying around, you can't just say, oh, well, it's not, no identifying features, I'll keep it. Of course, you have to give that back. So now we've got a scenario. So Josh is out jogging. He's jogging down Golders Green High Street on a beautiful autumn Sunday. As he whizzes past a public park with cracking ducks, he suddenly eyes a bunch of money notes clipped together, blowing in the wind. The total amount is £613. No one else is in the area. Josh picks up the money and isn't sure what he should do. Should he keep the money, hold on to the money for a few days to see if anyone advertises losing it in the local e-classifieds, and if not, keep it, or donate the money to charity? What should Josh do? Has anyone got any ideas, any thoughts? Should he keep the money, hold on to it for a bit until someone might try and find it, or donate the money to charity?
Keep it for a little bit and then give it to charity if no one's claiming that after a couple of days.
Okay, and just to clarify, it's loads of money, like a wad of money notes, but they clip together. They're not just like loose. They've got like a little clip on them. So you reckon keep it, and then if no one kind of comes forward saying they've lost it, then you can just keep it. Yeah.
No, then give it to charity.
Oh, give it to charity. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Afterwards.
Oh, you're so nice. You're so nice.
Wow.
Property.
Who said? Sorry, can you say that again?
Lost property.
Lost property. Give it to lost property.
Police.
The police can look after lost property.
Yeah.
That's
and
fine.
if it's not claimed within maybe, say, 3 months, they will probably return it to you.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Do you think they would return it to you, or they would just
They're
keep
honest,
it?
yes.
They would, yeah? Okay, interesting. So, has anyone else got any ideas, any thoughts?
I think keep it.
You think keep it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got keep it, see if anyone comes forward, if not, give it to charity, or we've got give it to the police, and if someone comes forward, then great. If not, then they might give it back to you, and then you can decide what to do with it. Maybe you'll give it to charity, maybe you'll keep it. Okay, so the answer seems to be straightforward. So the Mishnah in Bava Metzia says that money in a wallet must be returned. So these are lost objects that a finder is obligated to publicize. Fruit in a container, an empty container, money in a wallet, an empty wallet, a collection of fruit, and a collection of money. So what is the common denominator between these lost objects that require them to be returned? So the answer, Rashi explains that they each have identifying characteristics, simanim, so the owner will not lose hope of retrieving them. So just going back, if it was just a pile of money just let on the floor, completely loose, blowing in the wind, and you're running around, very frantically picking up all these notes that are flying around, then there's no identifying feature. They're just random notes of money on the floor, unless, which we'll learn in a second, they were in a location that was very unique and that maybe you wouldn't expect money to be there or something. It's going to be almost impossible. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but it's going to be almost impossible for somebody to come forward and describe or prove that money is theirs, because it's just blowing in the wind. It could, you've got absolutely no way of uniquely identifying. But this money that we were dealing with, they were connected with a little clip. So that clip may have been unique. It may have had maybe it was a silver clip, or it had an engraving on it, or there was something there you could describe. You could describe to someone and say, I've lost some money. They were clipped together. It was a silver clip. Have you found it? And you've got there's a better chance of finding it there. So in our situation, there was that siman, that identifying characteristic. So you would have, in that case, an obligation to advertise that you found this, and try and find the owner. Whereas if it was loose money blowing around, and it was just blowing in the wind, and you were running down the street picking up all these random notes, in accordance with Torah law, you have no obligation to try and find the owner, because I think most people would agree that it's going to be relatively impossible if this money is just blowing around in the air. There's nothing unique identifying them to try and find an owner. So the halacha distinguishes between good identifying features and poor ones. So good features that help identify objects is something unique about the item itself. So maybe it's got a scratch or a marking, or it's not a usual size or weight. It's not a usual amount. It's got wrapping on it, or even the location can often be a unique identifying factor. So if you lost your pen in the library, and you lost your pen maybe in the computer area, that's quite common. A lot of people probably lose their pen in the computer area. But if you know that you lost your pen on the non-fiction section of the bookshelf, and you put it on the bookshelf for a few minutes, and that's a very unique, that's a simon, there's a unique identifying kind of factor there that you can describe and say, oh, I left my pen, it was on the non-fiction shelf, did you find it? And they say, oh, do you know what, we did find a pen and it was on the okay, great. And then you can, so location can also be a unique identifying factor. Colour alone, unless it's something original and unusual, is not considered a good indicator. So if you just said, I've lost a blue pen in the library, how many blue pens could there possibly be in the library? That's not unique enough. So therefore, if you found a blue pen randomly in the library, you're not, and it's very generic, you're not necessarily halachically obligated in Torah law to return that. But in the spirit of what we're learning, you definitely would be encouraged to hand it into lost property, explain where you found it, and give it to the the lady on the desk or the person on the desk, and maybe they would give it to somebody that had lost it. So the final kind of part to this, which is interesting, is so here we're talking about loss, losing things, lost objects, but this also applies to other types of loss. So I've got another case, and we'll quickly just go through that case. So Stu was power walking down Baker Street to his office, and passed an orange Ferrari whose headlights were left on, parked in front of Rubin's Kosher Restaurant on Baker Street. Very nice, very tasty. His roommate Steve had told him about the 18-minute learning session where they discussed the mitzvah of returning lost objects. But Stu wasn't sure if the principle also applied to saving someone from any type of financial loss. He had a dilemma. He might be able to save the car owner's battery from dying, but he risks running late to an important meeting. So he's walking along, very expensive car, the lights are left on. Are you obligated to go and tell the person? Can you just walk past? What should he do? What do you think? Anyone got any ideas? Should he just ignore it and walk past? Or should he go into the restaurant and ask around, see if anyone knows who owns it?
Go into the restaurant and inform them, and then carry on to not be too late.
Okay. So inform them, but if the owner's not there, then they're not there, and then just move on. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Johnny, that is Usher. How you doing? That might be more in the realm of damages, perhaps, than Hashava Severa. Just throwing that one out there.
Okay.
Since you're preventing someone from, how much obligation is there to prevent someone from damage? Yeah. Does that sound right?
So I'll bring So one must try to prevent any type of loss to another person. So we're talking about loss. So in Aruch HaShulchan, in Choshen Mishpat, it says, it's written, anything else that your brother loses, the sages explain that this comes to expand the scope of returning lost objects, So it's not just about returning lost objects, but it's also that we're obligated to prevent loss to another person's real estate. So, for example, when someone sees water overflowing and approaching his friend's house, he's obligated to try to save the loss by building a barrier against the water. Hashava Aveda also means trying to prevent all types of loss that may occur to another. If it is within one's ability to prevent a loss, he is obligated to prevent it. The Torah obligates us to return lost property, and by the same token we stand obligated to save others from incurring a financial loss of any type. Since the lights are draining the battery, you should make the effort to find and inform the owner. So well done, the Silvers. Silvers get 10 points, and you win a washing machine. Okay, so I'll just wrap up then. So in summary, the Torah obligates returning lost objects and prohibits ignoring them. And that's quite, I didn't realise how kind of clear it was about, and this happens all the time. Right? You're walking along, you see something randomly on the side of the street. So there is a clear obligation not to ignore it. But in accordance with some of what we've learned, obviously what we learned was just a summary, there's a lot more to it, but gives us a feel. If the owner has given up hope for ever finding a lost object, then the finder can keep it. But if he has not given up hope, the finder must publicize it. Money with no identifying characteristics can be kept, so just random loose money can be kept. But being found in a wallet or collected in a particular pattern or with some sort of unique clip or something must be returned and advertised. Other items that don't have an identifying mark can also be kept if their owners will quickly realize their loss, e.g. a pen. Location is also could be a simon, a unique identifying factor that could come into play. The finder must also make sure that the object was not purposely left there by the owner. So you have to be careful, because sometimes people leave things in places and it's not actually lost. So just keep that in mind. And Hashava Aveda, returning lost objects, also requires preventing others from incurring any type of financial loss. So it's not just limited to losing a woolly hat or a scarf or money. It could also be financial loss as well. So that's our session for this week. Thank you for joining. And we'll have another session next week where we look at another topic. We're going to look at drinking alcohol on Purim. So I hope you can join us then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.